Okay, this is a total departure and potentially really fucked up, but I'm going to read it. It was actually a Spanish magazine. Somebody had written something before in Spain, asked me for something about archives. And I had one thought, but I thought I could never publish this anywhere, but I could publish it in Spain because nobody will ever read it. And because it wasn't going to be translated, it was strictly in Spanish. And then something happened, like the woman's mother died and they never published it. And then somebody asked me to be in a reading series called Unpublishable. And I thought, what would that be? And then I thought, oh, this. And so it's called My Secret. You'll see what it's. As of fall 2017, I am interred in the Beinecke collection at Yale. What that means is that all of my notebooks since age 10 are now being sorted and filed and made available to some part of the researching public. On the occasion of being interred, I read at Yale this fall, and next fall I will give a talk entitled How to Write. When I gave the reading at Yale, I stayed at a hotel called The Study at Yale. I drove, so I handed the keys to my car to the valet, and I didn't see it again for a couple of days. I was tired, having driven that morning from Newark Airport. I had left my car there for a few days while I read someplace else in the U.S., and now I had driven here. But still, this Yale reading didn't feel like a regular gig, but more like the portraits I saw in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, actually in the cool, climate-controlled basement of the Philadelphia Museum of Art in the 90s, when I was doing research for a play I was writing about the poet nun of New Spain, Sir Juana Inés de la Cruz. The museum had a portrait that was a copy of the only known portrait of her. I wanted to look at it. But to get to it, they first rolled out several other portraits of young women with piles of flowers on their heads in white dresses. These were wedding portraits of women who were entering the convent, and their portraits had been painted because they would never again be seen by their families. They were each marrying God or maybe a building, the convent. Secretly, they were marrying each other. So I felt a little that way about the reading at Yale. The entire enterprise. I was marrying Yale, or my papers were, or my writing history was. This was the beginning of the end. I read in a very beautiful room on the second floor of the library. It was a building made out of very thin marble. Light came in from outside, but not that much light. It was thin stone, so it was a little bit like being buried alive. There was a nice big audience there, all friendly and happy to see my burial. I think, sure, many of them might have thought I was just reading rather than truly understanding what was behind the ritual. I read from all over my poetry life, young poems, recent ones. My selected poems had come out a few years ago, so I was used to reading from old work, but this was different. Now I wanted to do a good full scan of the corpse. People liked it, and afterwards I went out with some of the archivists. Is this too weird? Is it a little weird? I went out with some of the archivists and Karen, who was John Ashbery's biographer. I knew John, but she did too, but differently. She knew John. What hell to be a biographer, but I guess what purgatory it is to be me. Part interred, the rest still alive, and creating more fodder to be placed in folders filed away to be installed.